You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by demetrius-reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome to the show. You're listening to VRL, that's Vigilantes Radio Live, right here on iHeartRadio, and I am your host, Deanie. We have another special guest for you guys, so you definitely want to stick around for that. And as a matter of fact, text your buddies, family members, or even share it on social media right now and let them know that we are about to dive deep into another interview. Before I bring my guest on, I do want to say, even in the previous 5,000 days have pushed you backwards, you can still move forward today. Even when your resources have been depleted and your options have been exhausted, there is still a way to move ahead. Never, ever give up. For even the darkest night, there is always somewhere a source of light. Even in the most difficult situation, there is always somehow a way to triumph. Those troubles come rolling in unexpectedly on a regular basis. Life is life, and unquestionably very much worth living. Amid the pain, the frustration, and the disappointment, there is something of unfathomable value and beauty in the experience. So take hold of the abundant goodness that can never be extinguished. Live every day in awe of the fact that you are alive, Never forget about what a priceless gift you've been given to wake up every single day with a new opportunity to do something different. The ups and downs of life, pale in comparison to the magnitude of the blessing that is life itself. So remember who you are, what you are, and why you are. And if you don't know that yet, that's beauty too, because you can take the journey to find out. It's a real good journey too. You should go. Even though the going sometimes get rough, it is a blessed experience which has no equal. Take that from me, Coach Deanie. That is my word. Let's go.
Access, a minority-run nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse. Our prevention division educates the public on healthy relationships, consent, and boundaries, while our recovery division provides support and resources after trauma. We offer workshops and coaching to individuals worldwide, helping them navigate complex issues and reclaim their power. We believe in the power of education and conversation. Our interdisciplinary approach challenges societal norms and empowers individuals to live authentically and purposefully. With the guidance of our accredited coaches, you can overcome obstacles, achieve your goals, and create the future you desire. Don't wait to take control of your life and your sexuality. Visit our website, Sex.org, to learn more about our services and how you can get involved.
All right. Again, welcome to the show. You're listening to VRL. That's Vigilantes Radio Live right here on iHeartRadio. And I'm your host, Deanie. Our interviews are designed to go beyond music, news, books, art, acting, films, technology, education, entrepreneurship, entertainment, and sometimes even past that thing that we call the ego. Our interviews are designed to go behind the scenes and into the minds of these incredible human beings. The ones that were out there giving it their all for me, for you, and for the world. Well, I want to welcome you guys to today's episode, the final episode of tonight, where we have the privilege of speaking with Jeremy McMullen, an author whose deep dive into history helps illuminate our present and future. Born and raised in Pennsylvania, Jeremy's childhood experiences at historical sites sparked a lifelong passion for history. His journey has intertwined a rich faith life with keen historical insight in his latest book, A Nation at a Crossroads, Gettysburg for Yesterday and Today. And today, Jeremy will share how his explorations of historical events like Gettysburg can offer us guidance in today's complex world. So get ready for a conversation, hopefully full of depth, faith, and understanding. And with that, let's welcome Jeremy to the show. Hello, hello. Welcome.
Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm doing great. And how are you?
I'm doing good.
All right. First, I have to start with a joke. You know, you being from Pennsylvania, and I was born 45 minutes from Vicksburg. Your book, is it from the viewpoint of a Yankee?
Yes.
Just kidding.
No, it's just reality.
Oh, you're for real. It is from the view of a Yankee, right?
Well, I mean, it's a little hard not to, in some ways, you know. But just as I look through things, it's, I mean, I definitely can see the southern point of view and everything, and that's kind of where this goes. But, you know, it's definitely leans more heavily on the Yankee side of things.
Sure. And I visit some of those historical sites in the northern region of the USA. And I could tell you for sure that the South definitely has a different point of view.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, they hold on to that belief that, you know, we were right all along. But hey.
Don't we all? I mean, that's our human nature.
Yes, sir. So it's wonderful to have you with us today. Could you start by, I guess we should, you know, rewind time a little bit, get to know each other, or get to know you, rather. When did your love for history really begin?
Honestly, I think it would have to be around my 8-9 years old. I think it came from a lot of the family trips. We would have usually a historical site in there that we would go to. So that's kind of where it started. And then, like I said, being from Pennsylvania, we didn't have, you know, Gettysburg wasn't too far away, and, you know, a lot of these, we would travel the Northeast a lot, so my younger years were spent seeing Boston and Philadelphia and all these kinds of places. So it was kind of pretty early on.
Absolutely. Besides the Civil War era, is there any other particular points in history that really excites you?
Oh, yeah, World War II. My grandfather, both my grandfathers participated in it. And so that's, you could probably even say that's more of an interest than what the Civil War really is. But yeah, World War II for sure.
All right. You think you will write a book about it one day?
Maybe. I think it would be cool to do one from the vantage point of my grandfather, who was in the medical corps. I think that's a part of the military that doesn't get covered a lot from the medical side of things. And, you know, war is a horrific place in and of itself, but to see it from the medical side of things would be, I think, a trip that we don't normally kind of see or read about.
Yeah. Jeremy, in your exploration of history, what have you found to be truly worth fighting for?
Faith in Christ. That's what I find to be worth fighting for. I believe fighting for the Lord, fighting for biblical values are what really drives me to be worth it, because as I dive into things and I've been looking into things, I think really the biblical worldview is the only way in which you can really understand what's happening, or at least find hope and peace in what's going on. And that's worth fighting, because within that biblical worldview, in my opinion, is where every individual finds their worth has their value, and because of being a created being, or have that inherent value.
Absolutely. And I know we're not at the tip of the iceberg yet, or even partially through this thing, but it feels like we're in a fight right now for spirituality, especially faith in Christ. Basic principles of living everyday life just seems to be challenged, and it's like it's being openly mocked more so than ever before. Do you get that same feeling?
I do, and I think that's kind of where, there's the talk out there of a new civil war. I think it's kind of centered around that whole idea. We've advanced so much technologically. AI is, going by leaps and bounds, and I think we're getting into this stage where we're losing a sense of humanity and what that means, and at the heart of that then is the spiritual battle, and I think it is very much at the core of what's happening today and what we're experiencing today, for sure.
Yeah, man. And speaking of new civil war, man, I'm on X a lot, well, not a lot, but Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and I see race wars, I see gender wars, I see free speech wars, I see political wars. Like, it just won't be one civil war. It just seems like there will be multiple civil wars happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, and that's something that happened in doing this work. I mean, it started out honestly just going through the battle itself, and then the more I started to throw around certain questions, such as, of all of the locations, why did Gettysburg happen in Gettysburg? And as soon as I started diving into that idea, it started to take on a whole nother level of importance, that it almost had to take place there. And once you kind of get to that point, it's one of those where you start seeing that things are coming back around to that. You're almost seeing a repeat of it all over again, and you see things happening for a reason, and you just see a lot of the same similarities happening back then that you do today.
Absolutely, Jeremy. We can't do anything about the past, but as your book suggests, we are definitely a nation at a crossroads. Why do you think Gettysburg holds such an important lesson for us today?
Well, I believe it holds such a lesson for us in the sense because of the fact of what was happening at the time, right? I mean, had the South been successful at Gettysburg, slavery as we know it and that approach to life, that mindset, would have been enshrined. It would have been a nation unto itself. And the fact that there was a Gettysburg, and then the principles that you see kind of come through, just taking firm stands, and at points in time in the past, at other battles, when the troops would give way, when the Union troops would give way and not hold their ground, there was just something about Gettysburg that was different. There was, you could say, well, it's the first time they really invaded northern territory, and maybe it brought it home a bit more. But it was one of those where you just see story after story in that battle that it was paramount that the result be what it was. And when I look at the lead up to that, and again, the viewpoint and the talk and how what the viewpoint of the South was, like you were talking about at the very beginning of how they saw things, I see a carryover and a parallel to today, and how there's talk about certain people of, they're lacking. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the they're not civilized. They're not educated enough. Whatever it may be, you're almost seeing the exact same discussion. And so if Gettysburg was a turning point in that Civil War, then I believe there's something about Gettysburg that we have to learn, that we have to dive into and learn from, so that we can perhaps see our own turning point that leads to the, as you're saying just a moment ago, all of the civil wars that we have going on around us. Maybe we can finally bring it to an end.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
Prayerfully, right?
Yeah, prayerfully. You're right. Yes, indeed. So, what specific aspect of the Gettysburg battle do you find most compelling?
I find the people who were there to be most compelling, and I think more than anything, the person who's not there speaks the loudest to me, and that's Stonewall Jackson. And I believe that had Stonewall Jackson been there, there were so many events of Gettysburg that took place that actually revolved around him if he had been there. And him not being there was like a catalyst for the result that Gettysburg ended up being. And I think it really spoke to me of, if there's, tactically, if there's something that has to happen or someone needs to be there, not be there, that is a sign to me of God's hand on the whole matter. And the part that gets me is the fact that Jackson wasn't there, and the number of events that happened at Gettysburg that would have revolved around him. It just really hit me hard that just days before Jackson's death, Lincoln put out a call for the people to fast and to pray and to seek the Lord with reverence and repentance, asking for forgiveness of forgetting the Lord and turning their backs on the Lord, and praying that he would turn and show mercy and grace and be with them. And then just a couple of days later, Jackson's wounded and ends up passing away from infection. And so he can't be at Gettysburg. And then when you dive into Gettysburg, you could easily look at it and say, well, Jackson would have been here at this time. He would have been here at this time. And all of those moments, in my opinion, diving into it and looking at it, had he been there, the result could have been differently, and the overall Gettysburg could have gone entirely different.
I can see that. How do you relate it to current societal conflicts?
Well, that comes down to Gettysburg as a crossroads town. You've got all these routes that come in and intersect into Gettysburg. And it just so happened to be that I was looking at some different events. And in 1844, you have a number of things that happen. You have Marx and Engels. They meet together and really start fleshing out their ideas for the first time. You have the forerunner to Darwin's work is published in 1844, but it's the first time that gives any idea of natural selection and that the earth wasn't created. And then in 1844, you have Nietzsche, who was born. And then if you take and you follow Nietzsche, what's interesting about him is in 1882, he does his play, Gay Science, where you hear the declaration of the madman saying, God is dead. And between Darwin taking God out of the creative process, and then Marx and Engels taking God out of the governmental process, you only really have one aspect left to say, and that is God is dead. He doesn't exist. And so you go from 1844, where all three of those main things happen, to 1882, when there's the declaration that we all kind of are familiar with of God as being dead. Well, literally right in the middle of that, if you break it down, is Gettysburg in 1863. 1863 is the middle between 1844 and 1882, and the middle of that is July of 1863. It's like dead in the middle. So you have a crossroads moment. And I find it intriguing that much of the same ideas of Marxists, there is no God in our government, there is no God in our justice, morality, there is no God there, and there is no God who created us all. We're just here. We're not, there is no creative hand behind the whole process. It's just, we're here. We're purposeless. Well, then you join that up with, I think, what we see a lot today, and that is, well, God is dead. And I think we've seen it in the last few years just ramp up more and more. I think we saw it even more during the pandemic. Churches weren't seen as essential. I think it's the first time ever in our nation's history that when we are facing a world war or some kind of a national disease or whatever, that churches are off limits. You can't go and pray. You can't seek the Lord together for mercy, for healing, for anything like that. You start seeing a lot of the similarities of what was happening, that I believe Gettysburg was meant to be a turning point, of a warning of, hey, this is where we're heading, and we need to turn away from that. And I kind of make the argument, maybe we didn't emerge from the Civil War the way that we thought we did. Maybe in essence the Confederate side has just kind of gone dormant. The mindset, the belief system has just kind of gone dormant. And what we've seen in the last 10, 15 years is that rising up of a new Confederacy, that same old mindset coming back around.
Absolutely. Jeremy, how has your faith influenced your perspective on history and the way that you interpret historical events?
Well, it's my filter, honestly. I mean, I find it interesting that the definition for coincidence has only really changed in the last century with adding by accident or by mere chance. Before that, the coincidence just meant the coming together of two or more events at one time. And to me, when I look at these events, I'm looking at it through that lens. I believe that I see the Lord moving. It's not that I'm the only one who sees it. That's how I see it. I believe that I see how the Lord orchestrated events, a lot of times just by the sheer number of things that had to happen in an order in which they had to happen. But it's very much the filter through which I look at world events and where we are, where we're going, what's happening.
Absolutely. All right. So based on your studies, what advice do you think historical figures from Gettysburg would give us today, especially with our, no, I won't say that. I won't say that. But maybe some perspectives from Gettysburg figures from back in the past. Do you think they could, what advice do you think they would have for us today?
Yeah, I think it's right there in the battle itself. I think I found it interesting that to be successful in that battle, the Union troops had to surrender what they thought to be good ground, and they had to run and stand firm on the better ground, the higher ground to the south of the town. And I think that speaks to, again, biblical worldview is my lens through which I look at, and to me, it's running and holding to the biblical worldview. It's holding to those principles and standing firm and holding firm to them. Those are the stories that really stood out to me of Gettysburg. The 20th Maine and the 1st Minnesota. I mean, standing to the last man for the ground in which they were holding on to. And I think we see too much of yielding your ground. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be able to talk. You need to be able to talk. We need to have a calm discourse and allow people to disagree with us. But I think we're seeing it where we're getting forced more and more to abandon principles that are good, moral principles. And that's the thing that really stands out to me, is one of the things that you can read and pull and glean from the Battle of Gettysburg is they stood their ground. And they fought hand to hand if they had to not get moved from the ground from which they were holding, because they understood it to be good ground, and it was the best ground from which to fight. And they were going to fight with everything that they had to hold on to it. And I think that's just so important right now.
It is, and that's interesting that you say that. I was just talking with a friend earlier, about an hour earlier, and he was like, he doesn't believe this generation will stand for anything, that they're not willing to fight. There's low numbers and Army recruits. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to really be negative about anything, but he believes that this generation will not stand up for anything.
I think it depends on what it is. I think if it's something that really hits them, I think if there's that moment when it really hits home for them, I think honestly they can be as strong as every generation to come before. I mean, even the greatest generation in World War II, they can't even tell you how they handled everything that they did. And so I kind of feel the same way at times, but I have kids that are that age, and I look at them and I'm like, I see fight in them. I see passion in them. It's all about it being directed in the right way and knowing why and what they're standing for. And if they can marry the head and their heart together, I think they have quite a bit of fight in them and are willing to stand. I just think what we've traditionally stood for, I don't think we can necessarily count on them, just because I think there's so much that's broken right now that I don't necessarily really blame them for not wanting to stand for some of these things. But to say that they can't, I think is wrong. It's just we're so used to standing for the certain things over and over and over again, and they're not ready to just follow lockstep with the same ideas, I think.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't have to hit close to home for that to happen. I'd rather do without the tragedy.
A concern, right?
Yeah. Always a concern. So how was the process for researching such a profound topic as Gettysburg?
A rabbit hole. It turned into, like I said, it started out with just looking at the battle itself. I was interested in seeing God's hand at work in Gettysburg, and the more I started diving in and more looking at telling the whole story of how we even got to Gettysburg, like I said, I started to see more and more of how it related to today. And then I thought, man, am I on the right track here? And it would seem that I would turn around and there would be either something in the news or something that I'd come across, and then that would turn into, okay, I'm going to start reading into that. And that led to like 10 more sources. And so it just turned into one deep rabbit hole that was, it was cool to go down, but I was kind of surprised of where it led, and came across so many works and speeches and quotes that I never knew existed before. And so as much as it was a rabbit hole, and it was still an incredible journey to go on, for sure.
Sure. All right. A rabbit hole. I was going to ask about some interesting facts that you uncovered about the battle. And for one, I didn't know that Abraham Lincoln suggested everyone to fast and pray. They didn't teach that in history, at least to my knowledge.
It's a little known thing that he did. It was put forth, I believe, by the Senate first, and then he signed on to it. That it was at the end of March, but it was to take place a month later. So on April 30th, today, it was called upon the nation to fast and pray and to repent. And it is one of those that I would highly suggest anybody to go find it and read it, because if you want to see a parallel to today, just read that, because it's amazing how, like, oh yeah, that's kind of us right now, isn't it? We've abandoned, we've leaned on our own, we've become so self-reliant, we've forgotten God, we've abandoned Him, we've taken His grace and goodness for granted. I mean, it is just chock full of conviction, but hey, it sounds like us today.
Absolutely. All right. What do you hope your readers take away from A Nation at a Crossroads?
My prayer is that it would be a look at yourself. I've heard it, and I've been saying this to some friends and family. You know, we know the saying that, well, our problems are man-made, so man can fix them. And I think that's the problem. Yes, our problems are man-made, but we need God to fix them. We need to get back to the Lord. And so my prayer is that as people would read this, they would take the stories and would apply it to themselves. The principles that you see of the guys in battle, and the fact that, you know, they surrendered their lives to fight. They surrendered their lives to fight for those who were enslaved. I mean, that they were sacrificing beyond themselves. And if there's ever a lesson that we need to hear right now, it's that. We have a lot of dying for our own selves, but not for anyone else. Not living for someone else even, you know. And so that's my prayer, is that people would read it and see the principles that were taking place in the battle and what was happening, and understand the principles, the mindsets, where the nation was at that time, and see the parallels to today, and say, well, if they did that at Gettysburg, I can do that in my own life. And I can find that high ground of truth to stand on, and I'm not going to yield from it. So I pray that it would just be a time of really looking inside ourselves and finding that Gettysburg moment within ourselves that is a turning point. And I believe that if we do that individually, and we all do that, the nation can't help but go through another crossroads moment and a turning point in and of itself.
Absolutely. Jeremy, where can our listeners get a copy of the book?
You can get a copy on Amazon and just do a search for the title of it, Nation at a Crossroads. Or you can go to my website, jmcpub.com, jmcpub.com. Those are the two main sources to get it. And yeah, just love for people to get a copy of it.
All right, and listeners, just in case you didn't get those links, no worries. I will have them in the description of this episode and in the show notes. So all you guys have to do is just click those links. Jeremy, thank you for joining us today and sharing the insightful reflections on Gettysburg and its lasting importance. Your dedication to exploring the depths of history to shed light on our present circumstance is truly inspiring, and I'm glad that you're on the forefront with this book. To our listeners, be sure to pick up a copy of A Nation at a Crossroads, Gettysburg for Yesterday and Today, to gain a deeper understanding of how the past continues to influence our future. If you don't believe me, just open your eyes, get on Twitter or X, and you'll see for yourself. Make sure you guys follow Jeremy McMullen for more updates on his work and upcoming projects. And thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. And remember, understanding our history is key to navigating our future. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking the truth and the stories of our past. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Oh, Danny, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, what's up, long time? I forgot to mention that, by the way, this is Deanie, Vigilantes Radio Live, VP of Operations for Busy Bone from Bone Thugs and Harmony, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, Only One Theory dropped a new single. It is called La Jefecita. It's on Spotify. As a matter of fact, it's on all major platforms. You should check it out right now. Oh, and by the way, there's also a visual on YouTube. It's hot. Check it out today. onlyonetheory.com. Check that out too. Peace.
Thank you, my Vigilantes family, as always, for checking out my podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio Live. All episodes are available for free download, and you can grab it from either Spreaker.com/Only One Media Group, Spotify, Castbox, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, the app Podcast Addict, or over at our website, which again is onlyonemediagroup.com, and that goes for every single show that we've ever aired. If you like to request some music or send something for me to play, email it to vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. That is V as in Victor. And here's my disclaimer: we are genre free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay but facts alone. And actually, scratch all of that, because all of my opinions are always right. That's the bottom line. This is my show, so deal with it. Just kidding. On behalf of myself, Denny, I appreciate all you guys for tuning in, either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word, because sharing is caring. We stepped up our game just for you guys and our guests to make sure that you have the best experience here on our show. Be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Snapchat, TikTok, at all social media sites, as well as Spreaker, YouTube. We always follow back. Okay, well, just remember to put yourself into everything that you do and never stop investing in yourself. Peace, love, grilled cheese, and talk with you later.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black-Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. This is a Seventh Sign Regime Rebirth Worldwide Syndicate exclusive.
What's up, guys? It's Deanie, and I want to welcome you on a journey of the heart and of the mind. These Fucking Feelings podcast is a beacon in the world of mental health advocacy, and it invites you to join a conversation that's changing lives. We are here to share, listen, and grow together. Led by the passionate Micah Bravery, alongside the insightful Rebecca and Crystal. This award-winning podcast dives deep into the human experience, from navigating relationships to coping with loss. No topic is off limits. It's about real stories, and real emotions. These fucking feelings is more than just a show. It's a community, a place where vulnerable isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. You can find it across major platforms, including YouTube and Facebook Watch. This podcast is a touchstone for anyone seeking understanding and support. These Fucking Feelings podcast, where every emotion is valid and every story matters. Tune in and transform the way you see mental health.